everybody, happy Thursday. Now today's video, as you saw from the title, and that's why you clicked on this video, is I'm going to talk about 13 Reasons Why. And if you don't know what 13 Reasons Why is, it is a Netflix series that dropped on March 31st, I believe, about a girl, Hannah, and the 13 reasons why she committed suicide. So as you can see, today's video is just a little bit different, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts, and as always, these are just my opinions. You can leave in the comments your opinions. You can totally disagree with me, that is fine, but I'm just gonna give you my take on this TV show as a whole, and at the end I'm going to tell you whether or not I recommend it for you and what I would have liked to have seen them do maybe instead, because there are some things that I found a little disheartening or upsetting about the show. Now, the first thing that I want to address is the thought that suicide is something that's done as revenge. This may be the case for some people. In my personal experience with clients who struggle with suicidal thoughts and suicidality as a whole, suicide more often than not comes out of a place of extreme hopelessness, feeling like things are not ever going to get better no matter how hard we try. We see no light at the end of the tunnel. In my experience, I have not seen it used as revenge, and I really do not like the fact that they paint this picture of suicide looking like it's something that's done for revenge. Now, before I get into the other reasons, I think it's important to kind of tell you a little bit about the show so that what I'm talking to you about makes sense, okay? The show is structured so that this girl, Hannah, who kills herself, leaves 13 reasons why she did so. And these 13 reasons she recorded via a little microphone on cassette tapes. And she leaves them with a friend, Tony, and tells him to kind of make sure they get to the people whose names and the reasons why they caused her to want to do this. He makes sure that they get to those people and in the order with which they fall on the tapes. Meaning that if Katie was on the first tape, was one of the reasons why she killed herself, then I would get it first. I'd pass it along to Susie, who's on tape 2, and so on and so forth, all the way through all 13 reasons. And so that kind of gives you a little bit structure of how it works. And we're following this boy, Clay, as he listens to these tapes in order, okay? And so now I want to roll into my second concern. I'm looking down because I made notes while I watched all 13 episodes for you because I love you. The second one that I have an issue with is, and I understand this happens a lot, but I just didn't like the amount that it happened, was all of the students who were on the tapes getting upset about being on the tapes, which I understand, but then instead saying, you know, Hannah's just such a drama queen and she just did this for attention. I understand that some people may respond that way, and maybe it's an important thing that we hear, but then there was no combative measure. Clay said a few things argumentatively back to it, but a lot of times they'll just let it hang, and it felt really invalidating and just kind of icky to me. Now, the third issue, I guess, that I have with it is that many of the reasons that she leaves on these tapes as to why she decided to kill herself or felt so hopeless or at the end of a rope that she did this were really blown out of proportion. There's one in particular, I think his name was Seth, if I'm remembering correctly. He's the guy who was super nice to her and he wanted to ask her out. He thought that she liked him and she just shouts at him for no reason. And in her tape, she's saying it's because you were just like all the other guys, but he hadn't really done anything. And then because his feelings were hurt, he took her compliments out of her compliment bag in a communications class. I don't want to get in the nitty gritty, but he did something because his feelings were hurt. And then she used that as another reason. And a lot of these things are just really overdone and over exaggerated when I think there were plenty of other reasons and other things that were going on that are valid enough or would have been enough to get the point across. And I think the reason that I'm even saying this, and this is like one of the issues I have with it, is it made it really hard for me to like Hannah. And I feel that in order to get the point across that suicide is serious, that it happens to teens, that people are bullied, like all of the things that they're trying to, I would assume, get across or bring awareness to, it made it really hard because I didn't like her. She lashed out at a lot of people. She was really aggressive. I didn't always understand why. And yeah, you felt bad for her in certain instances, but there were some times where it was hard for me to follow along and like hope for better for her and like root for her because I was like, what are you doing? Why are you screaming? He's trying to be nice. And so I felt like by adding those extra reasons in, they kind of lost what they could have gained with this whole show. The fourth thing, and something that I want all of you to hear, if you don't watch any farther, if you completely disagree and are like, I can't watch any of this, at least hear me out on this. This is an extremely triggering show. There are so many episodes, I can't even tell you how many times assault and rape are in it graphically, and suicide is in it graphically. And I understand the need to show some things to keep the story going, to let you know what's actually happening in it. But like any good TV show, if you show, let's say you show a couple going to bed to have sex, right? They're kissing, they're making out, clothes are falling, they fall into bed, boom, you cut to another scene. Maybe you let it last for like a couple seconds. It's extra kissy, whatever. So you understand where the plot is going, what's happening with these characters. They held on to these rape instances and that her actually committing suicide for way longer than they needed to get the point across. And I found it, even as a person who hasn't gone through that myself, I couldn't keep watching it. I had to look away. It was way too much for way too long, and I didn't feel it was necessary to get the point across. I felt like it was really gratuitous and it was kind of done for shock value, which overall just frustrates me because those are real issues and we need to bring light to them in a way that helps people understand what the ramifications of that are, and also, maybe offering some help or some resources for those who suffer them that are watching this. The fifth issue I have with this is a lot of the reasons that she gives. There were many opportunities for her to express herself and let people know that she was upset and try to talk to them, because a lot of the students actually are really communicative with each other. And yeah, it may not go the way that we want. This is also teenage land, and I understand. But a lot of the reasons I feel could have been helped by her just communicating what's going on and not expecting people to read her mind. And I know that that's hard to hear, but I also think that's an important point, and I think that that's how they could have tied in mental health care, therapy, and all the treatment options that are available. She could have worked to try to talk about this, and I think that could have brought more light to not only clear communication skills and how important those are and how healing they can be, but also mental health. Anybody? Have we heard about it in the show yet? I haven't. And that rolls right into my sixth reason, which is there's no talk of therapy. None. No talk of mental health, no talk of depression, no talk of anything like this at all. There were so many ways to bring it up. The only ways it was ever brought into the show in any way was through Clay's mother, who said that he used to have, I think, night terrors or nightmares or something. And so he was on medication, and she said maybe we'd take him back to see him, even if just the talk therapy helps. That's the only time it was ever mentioned. Hannah's situation, the girl who actually killed herself, then there was never any mention of her actually going to therapy, her asking for help. There is one at the very end where she says she's reaching out, but I'll get to that at the very end because I'm kind of trying to go in order. But why is there no mention of mental health issues? What could have led up to it? What it can feel like for her, and what treatment options are available? Maybe she could have even pulled out her phone and tried some crisis text line. I don't know. There's so many resources now. Why didn't you use any? Why didn't you add any in? It would have been so simple. Netflix, what gives? So another little note that I want to add in is they talk about how the school sent out emails to the parents telling them to talk to their children. But why didn't they have a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, anybody available to the children all day, 5 days a week, whenever they need? I know. So I was in high school from 1998 to 2002. And it was actually middle school. In 1997, one of my best friend's sisters got in a car accident and was killed. And when that happened, even though we were younger, I was 4 years younger than her, at our middle school and all the schools, they offered a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and therapist 5 days a week whenever we wanted to go. We just had to write our name down on this list and they would schedule us in, and we could take time out as class and we could go see them. Why was there no mention of that? That'd be such an easy add-in, and something that in a very rural community where I grew up, that was available, and that was over 15 years ago. So what? Ugh. And the seventh comment I want to make is that it really just felt like way too many issues shoved into one show. And I know you're thinking, hey, Katie, a lot happens in high school, and this is a show, so suspension of disbelief, you're supposed to just go with it. But I don't feel like we needed all of the things they tried to cram into this TV show in order to give us a reason why someone would kill themselves. A lot of it felt like a big stretch, like her friend that knocked the stop sign over and then didn't want to call the police, and she was upset about it. But by the time Hannah walked from that, accident, knocking the stop sign over, to their local like 7-Eleven or Stop and Go to call 911 and let them know one of their friends had already been killed in a car accident at that intersection. And that there were just a lot of instances where you're like, that's really terrible, but you're really just adding more than you need to. And the 8th comment that I have, and the one where I honestly was so angry and frustrated with the way the show had progressed and what had come to pass and what was happening now, I was like, fuck this show. I don't want to watch this anymore. But it was the last episode, so yay, I guess, was when she recorded her going to her school counselor. And the reason I don't like this isn't that the school counselor, should have done a bunch of things or didn't do something or did too much, or it's not even anything about that. It's the fact that she states, so she's already recorded all 12 of the cassettes. She's on her final cassette, and she starts that cassette, or it's at the end of the other one, I don't know, saying that she's going to give life one more chance. And at this point, I was like, I really like this. I hope that, obviously you kind of understand when you watch the show that she's going to kill herself, but you're like, this is good. A lot of people do this. They'll feel really, really hopeless at the end of the rope, and then they'll give it one more shot, and they'll try things, and they'll reach out. And she says, I'm going to reach out. And I was like, hallelujah. Mental health professionals coming at you. She's going to get some help. She's going to talk to her parents. This is going to be cool. It wasn't. Instead, she went to her school counselor and tried to open up to him, which was wonderful. And he should have been a little warmer and I think should have been a little bit nicer to her. But it was their first meeting. He didn't really know her more than her coming in to talk about college and stuff. So he was like, tell me a little bit about that. And she was saying that she'd been raped, but she didn't use those terms. And then he was like, I really would like to, help you. But in order to report something like this, I'm going to need to know the name, and we're going to have to know some details, which is true. And I'm kind of mentioning this because I think it's important for all of us to understand that that is part of the protocol. If you're going to go and, say that someone raped you or assaulted you or did something to you, in order for me to report it and in order for it to become a legal issue, we have to have more details and we have to know who. And she refuses to give any information, gets very upset. His phone keeps ringing, which is frustrating. But then she's recording all of this, which I hate still. And then she walks out. She's tearful in the room and then walks out and says to the microphone, you heard it. He's not going to help me. She's all mad about it. And I understand that like the first time you meet with someone, maybe, it was just so frustrating. I can't even tell you, because it's almost like she was using him as a scapegoat to say, yeah, he's the reason. I even reached out for help, but I don't feel like it was done in an honest way. What I would have loved for them to do with this TV show, because remember, it's a TV show, right? I would love for them to have had her talk to her mom and cry, because her mom and dad were really there. They were around a lot. Obviously, they were fighting about money and stuff, but it had nothing to do with her. And there was no abuse in her family. She had a good relationship with both her parents. I would have loved to have seen her come to her parents and say, I'm having such a hard time, and then open up a little bit and cry about it and maybe get into a therapist, like a therapy appointment that way, have her parents find a therapist for her. That would have been so much better than this. This felt very icky. It felt very blame the school counselor. He's no good. And part of me was like, you didn't even give him a chance. And so it kind of left me really disappointed in whoever created this TV show or wrote the book, because that would have been such an easy way to insert, in the script, insert helpful tools, insert resources for those watching who may be suffering. And instead it was like, they're garbage. I'm going to do it anyways. And she left that appointment with him and went home to kill herself. And that just was it was like the worst ending to the worst show. And as you can imagine, I don't recommend it. I love that they were showcasing mental health in traditional media in a very big way. And I was hopeful, because it got so much press and so many people were watching it, I was hopeful that it would bring more awareness and also let people know how serious suicide is, how serious bullying is, how common rape and assault in high schools and college campuses, how common that is and how important it is that we talk about it. I thought that they could do all of these things, talk about drinking and drugs and alcoholism. And there's so many ways that they could have brought awareness and offered up tips and tools and had the kids getting different help and resources. I was so excited for it. And it's great that they were talking about mental health in a large platform. But the truth of it is that they didn't succeed. If their goal was to put out sensational and possibly dangerous material, then they totally were successful. However, if their goal was to bring awareness, offer up tips and tools, and help those who are suffering feel more understood, I truly believe that they failed miserably. And so what I would have liked to have seen them do is add in little resources here and there. A mom checking in with her child. I did love that Clay's mom was super involved and super aware, but we're following Hannah. Hannah's the one who was having such a hard time going through all of these issues and ends up killing herself. I would have liked to have seen Hannah reach out for a little bit more support. Talk to more friends about it. Reach out to someone else. Talk to a teacher. Maybe she could have had a connection with a teacher. Anything. I wish they would have just given us something, some resources. Maybe she's texting crisis text line. Anything like that. We know all those resources that are available. Maybe she's online in a chat room talking with others who are struggling. Whatever it is, I would have liked to have seen more of that integrated into the show in order to make me feel good about it and to feel like it's a resource and something that I can recommend. But at this point, with how it stands, I don't know if there'll be a season 2. Maybe they will be more involved in that and they'll add more, hopefully. But where it stands right now, I don't recommend it. I think it's really gratuitous. I think it's done for shock value. And I was extremely disappointed with their lack of resources and tools for those who are watching it. And I've heard from many of you that you found it to be extremely triggering and one that's left you with a lot of suicidal thoughts of your own. And so I would encourage all of you, I will link in the description, resources. If you are struggling with suicidal thoughts, or if you're just struggling with online bullying in general, or any kind of bullying, if you're struggling in general, check out some of the resources I link below. If you have one that you really love, I know 7 Cups of Tea is super popular, leave it in the comments and let me know your thoughts. You can completely disagree with me. Those are just it's my feelings and my response based on my personal experience as a therapist. That's all I can give you. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you on Monday.